and welcome to the Slay to Success Talk Show. My name is Rochelle Slay, or Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. And y'all, I have a SLAYMAZING guest once again tonight. So you don't want to miss out on this conversation that we're going to have. So as you come on into the show, you know what to do. Go ahead and let us know where you're streaming in from and tell us your name so we can give you a shout out because you decided that you wanted to spend your time, just a little bit of time with us tonight to find out, to learn, to grow, to expand your knowledge base, if you will. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Now, we start every conversation off with slay, okay? The word slay means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, and to dream big and work hard until you own it. It is also an acronym, which is the method for which you can leverage your personal brand to attract opportunities that you are seeking, that you desire, that you deserve, that you have earned. And that is strategic identity, leadership presence, aesthetics authority, and your narrative power. So tonight, y'all, I have a guest, okay? And we haven't officially met in person, but the power of LinkedIn is real, okay? It is absolutely a real thing. We found each other on LinkedIn, and I was like, wow, she signed up, y'all, and now we're going to be here and we're going to have this conversation with you tonight. So, as your speaker connoisseur, if you will, personal brand expert, five-time author, and also United States Air Force veteran of 30 years. I always have the pleasure of introducing those that have served and sacrificed a whole lot. And so I have one of my great friends now, women veteran, who's going to be here on the show tonight. And I have her bio, y'all. So, you know, LinkedIn ain't trying to make me be great in these bios tonight. But guess what? I got another trick. All right. So here it is. Her name is Christina Angle, and she is an accomplished Army veteran. So all my Army veterans out there, you should be already dialed in. You should be already putting in the commas, who's, and we are here, all counted, present and counted for. She served during Operation Inherent Resolve in Iraq and Kuwait within the military police, support headquarters, recruitment and retention, and aviation units. She brings over 12 years of experience as a human resource manager working with the United States Army, the Department of Defense, the Department of the Interior, and the Department of Veteran Affairs. Christina holds a Master of Science in organizational psychology. She currently leads a team of 17 human resources professionals, and she has both virtually and in person folks that she is leading across the nation to support special projects and initiatives focused on benefits for veterans, for military spouses, and their families. She is passionate about the military community and dedicated to serving veterans and their families through personalized life coaching, benefit resources, and specialized emotionally intelligent training. As a veteran, a military spouse, an Army mom, and a member of the LGBTQ plus community, Christina values being present for her family and aims to build an impactful legacy within the military community and in service to the nation. Now, the purpose of this show, y'all, is to inspire, to educate, and empower individuals by sharing actionable strategies for personal branding, for leadership presence, and professional and personal growth. And at its core, this show connects real life experiences with practical tools, helping viewers, you, okay, transform your identity, your influence, and visibility so that you can achieve the success that you're capable of. All right, so that is what we're going to be talking through today. So please give a warm round of applause for my guest, Chris. Come on to the stage. How you doing, Queen? How's everything today?
It is great. It is a beautiful Sunday in California. We're over 100 degrees again. So, of course, my lovely youngest child, who's 7, woke up this morning bright and early, 8 a.m. She was like, "Hey, let's go to the park and then let's go to the pool." She had a full agenda for me
Oh,
before
did she?
8 a.m. I'm like, all right, I
Well,
guess
she
I'm up and
knows what
going.
time it is, especially if it's 100 degrees out there. She's like, we got to get her out here early.
Yep, exactly, exactly.
Wow.
But
Well,
thank you
you're
for
welcome.
inviting me to
I'm
be here
just,
today.
yeah, I'm happy that you're here with me too. I just, getting to know people all around the world.
Yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, you may be one of maybe 2 or 3 people I have had on the show from California. So our time
Cool.
zones are different, y'all.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
she's here showing up. And so I absolutely want to thank you for your service and your sacrifices of serving in the Army, first and foremost, and then for what you are doing now. Because I think this is all important, it's impactful, it's meaningful, and you are in your calling. And I just want to learn more about it. So I know our audience wants to also learn more about what you do and who you are. So let's just kind of like go back in time a little bit to when before you went into the army and kind of share what you were doing before that and kind of why you went into the army.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, okay, let's go back into those archive documents,
Oh,
right,
I
in our
know, right?
brain. All right,
Woo!
so let's see. But yeah, before the army. So, gosh, I don't even remember the year, guys. Maybe 2011. I think it was 2011 because I went off to
Mm,
basic in 2012. So yeah,
yeah.
2011. I was actually working at Starbucks. A little interesting story. So I was married to a service member. He was in the Air Force, and he was
Mm,
medically discharged, and we had 2 little ones at the time, and they were 3 and 1 actually. So
wow.
my ex-husband was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, so he was medically discharged from the Air Force.
Yeah.
And I share that because I learned over time, as I get to coach veterans and spouses, that more people go through things like that, and it's in those moments how I got to choose what I'm going to do in that moment, right? And when we
Mm,
got all that information, I was between the ages of 21 to 22 years old, right? So I was a baby. Looking back, I'm like, wow. But in those moments, it's like I decided, like, what am I going to do right now, right? I have 2 toddlers, and my spouse was discharged from the military for his medical situation. And so it's like, what are we going to do, right? So I enrolled into University of Phoenix, and I started working on my associate's degree in business administration.
mm,
And so I chose to go to school full time online because I had 2 little ones.
yeah.
And I got a job at a law firm. And I share this experience because I think it was pivotal in what got me to the recruiter station. So
Oh, okay.
I got a job at a law firm, and it's so ironic because I work in HR now. But I look back, and in that moment, um, I loved it. And at one point, I literally thought, like, maybe I'll be a lawyer one day, right? And I think I was like
Yeah.
just barely over 21, right? I was like, maybe I'll be a lawyer. So I was working at the law firm, and there were some lawyers that I really looked up to, some of the attorneys, but the supervisor over the paralegals, she didn't have any military background. She was not a mother. She wasn't married. So she really couldn't relate to any of the things that I was experiencing. The recent discharge from the military for my spouse, being a young mother, being in school. She couldn't really relate to what I was experiencing in life. So her life looked like logging into work, or I'm sorry, going to work. We still worked in person those days.
Yeah.
So going into the office, and then going out to happy hour. And the breaks, the
Mm.
lunch breaks, the breaks from the office were spent smoking. And
Ah,
my breaks were different. I was
yeah.
either doing school, or I was nursing my youngest child at the time, so I was breast pumping, and going to school, and doing all the things. And then as soon as the work day was over, I was rushing home to grab the babies from daycare to not be charged the
Wow.
late fee, and then doing the nighttime routine with them. Once they got to bed, I was logging on to submit all of my assignments. So about 2 months into that position that I held there, they let me go. They fired me for failure to adapt. And that was their reason. And I asked why, and I was, young, I had no HR
Oh, yeah.
background. And they
Yeah.
said, well, failure to adapt because you are not taking your breaks with us, and you're not going out to happy hour. So we feel like you are not part of our team. And so I said, okay.
Oh.
And I packaged up my stuff. I left the office there in North Little Rock, Arkansas, and I drove started driving home, grabbed my babies from daycare, and I stopped off at Starbucks because the one thing about me is I love coffee. So I was like, well, this has been one of those days, so I'm going to grab some
Oh
coffee.
my
So I
goodness.
grabbed some coffee and I got a little pink cake pop for my little 3-year-old in the back. And I was sitting there, and ironically, the store manager of that Starbucks, he leaned his head out the window and he was like, "You okay, ma'am?" And I was like, "You know what?" And I was authentic in that moment. And
Yeah.
I said, "I'm not having the best day." I said, "I just
Yeah.
got fired. My spouse was let go from the military. He has a condition that's going to require medical treatment. I'm not sure how we're going to afford it, like all the things, right? I've got two
Yeah.
littles in the back." And
Yeah.
he said, "You want a job?" I was like, "I would love a job." He was like, "Buy a black button-up shirt, buy black pants, buy black non-slip shoes, and you start tomorrow." And he was like, "I don't care if you have to breast bump in the back. I don't care if you have to do your school in the waiting room or the cafe area on your breaks." And he was like, "You're solid." So I started at Starbucks the very next day, and
Wow.
and within 2 weeks of working there, I became a shift manager. And yeah, it was a beautiful transition, because I share that because I feel like those moments, in the moment of getting fired,
Yeah.
I was like, how am I going to live, right? Like, we got, I have a sick spouse, I have, medical bills, all the things, right? I was super young, I have 2 babies. And in those moments, I got to choose, like,
Yeah.
do I fight this? Do I
Yeah.
push back on this law firm, or do I step away and go into what's next? And then as the universe or God or however, whatever you believe in, right?
Yeah.
As I would have it, that store manager was working the drive-through that day, and I started at Starbucks the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a crazy but beautiful story. I mean, because I was just envisioning like you working on other priorities and other goals that you had for yourself that weren't in alignment. And I use the word alignment a lot. It wasn't in alignment with where you were trying to go.
Yeah.
And they saw it as you weren't trying to be a part of the team.
Mhm.
And you're like, no, I've got these two littles over here, your husband who's sick,
Yep.
and we got bills to pay, and I'm going to school. Like, so, love that you were able to get right into, something else that was more fitting and someone who cared enough to accommodate,
Yeah.
because you don't find that a lot of times. So I believe in God. God was looking out for you.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I don't need you to be sad or upset about this situation. I got something for you right around the corner.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I love that. So
Yep.
you working at Starbucks. We got one person who just dropped in, which is Chevy. She's also a veteran, an Air Force veteran. Thank you, Chevy, for you dropping in on the live show today. And we're having a good evening. So hopefully you're having a good evening as well. I just saw her on another call. So, which is,
Nice.
how we just, we just follow each other to the next thing.
Yep.
So, you know, after you're there at Starbucks, so how long did you work there before you went into the army?
So I think it was about 6 months. So I was
Okay.
working there, and so my spouse at the time, he was diagnosed with Crohn's, which at the time, it's so funny nowadays. I see all the different ads for different, treatment plans and things.
Oh
But at the
yeah.
time, there wasn't a lot, and
No.
we were, unfortunately, our TRICARE lasted about, I think they gave us 6 months after he was discharged.
Yeah.
And so after that ended, um, the doctor was working with us to get him on a treatment plan, which was this shot that he had to go in and physically get in the office every month, and it was
Yeah.
$8,000 per shot. And so
What?
once the TRICARE was going to end, because it was not it was a trial. It was a trial, so it wasn't like, yeah, it
Oh.
wasn't covered by certain. So TRICARE did cover it, but we were about to lose TRICARE, all the
Yeah.
things. So I was explaining all this to Starbucks. Their insurance was not going to cover it,
Yeah.
and then like I'm literally out walking with my friend who is actually in the Air Force. She is a major stationed there in Georgia now,
Hmm.
but at the time, her and I were both military spouses, and so we were out on a walk with the babies, and she had 2 dogs. I had 2 babies. We were out walking one night, and then all of a sudden, I looked at her, and I said, "Lauren, I could join the military and get us back TRICARE." And she was like, "Girl, you tripping?" I was like, "But what's stopping me? Like, I think I could do it." And so, like everyone, like my parents, siblings, friends, they were like, we give you 2 weeks in basic. And I was like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, well, then funny, I guess would have it is Lauren was like, I'll go with you. So we both went to the Air Force recruiter. My dad was Air Force. My ex-husband was Air Force. So we both went to the Air Force recruiter there in Jacksonville, Arkansas, and walked into his office, and he accepted Lauren right away. And he looked at me and he said, I'm sorry, at this time, we cannot accept any enlistments with children because you have a spouse that is disabled. So at this time, we can't accept you because you have 2 young children, and because your spouse is disabled, we wouldn't be able to accommodate you in all the things. And
Wow.
I was like, all right. As a side, so Lauren and I drove home. I think we went for a walk that night, and I was like, "Oh, now you're joining," and I still don't have a solution, but that's okay, right? Like we're just kind of like laughing it off because it's like such is life, right?
Yeah.
And the next morning, an Army recruiter called me, and he said,
Oh.
"Hey, so funny story. I went out to the bar last night with my Air Force recruiter buddy, and if I outdrink him, I got to get all the recruit phone numbers in his phone. You are one of those numbers, and we don't care that you have 2 kids." So yeah, I know it's not like not like a pretty or planned out story, but it was
Yeah.
how I joined.
Well, I love the stories like that because it's like it's unique, but it's something that we don't a lot of times think through when like how do we get there?
Right.
Right? You
Yeah,
had first of all, it takes a special type of person to join the military in the first place.
that's
Okay.
true.
Not everybody's raising their hand. Last time I know, there's less than 1% of the world, if you
Yep.
will, raising their hand and saying, I want to voluntarily serve.
Yep.
And then to be a woman to want to say, hey, I want to go ahead and serve with 2 small children, you know, that in its feet is kind of like, wow, okay, so you went into the army, which again is, another the service where I know, like being in the Air Force, and I had many Army veteran women that I served with. And they were like, y'all got treated a little differently in the Army than we did in the Air Force. But, I think that speaks highly of the person that you were. You were like, I'm going to make something work. I got to make something work here, so you go into the army, and then your job that we were reading from the bio was military police.
Yeah, so that's another. I say this to my kids all the time. I say trust the process, and they love it when I say that. That's sarcastic. They don't really love it when I
Oh
say
yeah,
that.
of course. What are you
I was
talking
like,
about,
hey,
mom?
you
Trust the
just gotta
process.
trust it. Whatever's meant for you will come to you. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, we
So
were.
yeah, I enlisted, and that was a very smooth process. No issues, no
Ah.
concerns, but they didn't have any positions
Uh-huh.
except for open general.
Yeah.
And so I went in open general, and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be great. Like, this is going to be interesting. So I'm on my way to MEPS and taking the ASVAB and all the different things. And I was literally on my way to ship out 3 days later. And they said, we have a position open up for 42 Alpha, which was human resources.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know what that is, but I'm about to Google it, and it'll be great.
Yeah.
So,
It's gonna be great.
yeah, it's going to be great. So yeah, and at that moment, I was still in my associate's degree program with the University of Phoenix, and the focus was on business management. So I really hadn't decided on what I wanted to do, and
Yeah.
so yeah, so then I went in and went to basic, and then went to AIT for human resources, and I was like, oh, I love this. Like, literally, the job of human resources is to take care of soldiers. Like,
Yeah.
this is great. Like, this is perfect. This is in alignment with all the things, and
Yeah.
I love that because when my son was joining last year, and when I talk to individuals who are joining, it's like, it's hard to know what you want to do at 18, maybe 25, even 30, right? It's hard to know. But when I was on my way to MEPS, and it was like, again, the universe, God, all the things were like, hey, here's a job that you might like. And it turns out I loved it. And it's like, I didn't even choose it. It was chosen for me. And
Yeah.
here I am. We're still working in HR.
Wow. Yeah, HR is, I love HR. I always, found it very fascinating. And I also got my associates in human resource
Oh, cool.
management. So it is it's definitely I love people and what they do and how interpersonal skills and
Hmm.
that whole concept of psychology and
Yep.
studying people. I'm just like, give me that all day, and I'm like, I don't know. I just found it very intriguing.
Yeah.
Um, so you're in human resource as your primary MOS when you
Yes.
went in, and so now did you do that for your full 12 years?
Yeah, I was in for 9 total, and I actually served active duty, reserves, and the guard. And I was attached to, so as HR, you can be attached to any unit. So I was attached to military police was first, so they were the ones on active duty, and
Ah,
I love that because, and my son just went infantry, so I don't mean to downplay the infantry at all,
yeah,
but
yeah,
military police, I feel like I was stationed at Fort Lewis, Joint Base Lewis McChord,
yeah.
and we were always in the field with the infantry.
Oh
And one
yeah,
thing that my first sergeant taught me, which I'm so appreciative that he taught me this, and we're still friends to this day, First
yeah,
Sergeant Takata, he said, "Don't ever be the office person that just stays in the office." He
yeah,
said, "I know that it'll stretch you and it'll challenge you, but if
yeah,
we go to the field, you go to the field." And he's
yeah,
like, "Yeah, you might have to come in early the next day to get caught up on your admin stuff." He's like, "But always be in the field with the troops because they will gain respect for you."
yeah,
And
yeah,
that was my first impression and first experience going into the military, was being attached to the 504th Military Police Battalion in Fort Lewis, Washington.
yeah, yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. That's one of the ways that you can definitely build trust a
Yeah.
lot more quickly with people who know that you're ready to roll your sleeves up and get dirty too,
Yep.
because you're part of the unit. And
Yep.
so I think that comes with the territory if you're looking to gain influence. And so he steered you right, all
He
right.
did.
So I have to say, yeah, that's pretty much it. And so, you know, from your time in the military, what are some lessons that you have learned that maybe you really didn't think about it while you were in service, or you're like, I'm using it every day. Like I feel like what I learned there, it applies to what I'm doing now.
Well, reflecting back to the 504th, within like a few, well, my first experience actually, I walked right up to the first sergeant and commander who had just gotten back from Afghanistan, so they had just taken command. So we were all brand new. And I was attached to the headquarters detachment, so I worked directly with the first sergeant commander. And one thing, I asked of them right away, which I look back now and I'm like, geez, that was a little brave of me to do that. I think I would have been scared if I overthought it. But I think in the moment, I was so focused on like survival. So
Yeah.
I didn't really care that there was a rank difference. I mean, I went in as an E3 because I had an
Yeah.
associate's degree, but I wasn't, I didn't have a lot of rank on my chest or nothing
Right.
like that.
Right.
But I walked right up to them within the first week and I said, "Hey, I'm in the middle of getting my bachelor's and I've got 2 little kids and I have a spouse with this condition. But I will be here, 110% every single day. But I need to stay on top of my school." But I had to have their permission to be enrolled in school. So I made that request within like the first couple of weeks. And they said, "That's fine. Formation is at 6 a.m. You can unlock, here's a key to the office. You can unlock the office at 4 a.m. That'll give you 2 hours of school before formation. You can also put a sign up on your door during your lunch break to say that you're preoccupied. We'll know you're working on school. And then you can leave after formation to go do your mom duties, right?" So
Yeah.
that's what I did for the entire time I was stationed there. Is that's how I got my bachelor's degree. I would get there at 4 a.m. I would do
Wow.
my school between 4 and 6 a.m., join PT formation at 6 a.m., do the whole entire duty day, do whatever school I needed to do during my lunch break, log off and go do all the mom things, and then do it all over again. But one
Listen.
thing that I think was a blessing is they supported me. They didn't,
Yeah.
they could have said, "No, you're brand new. This is your first duty station." No, they supported me.
Yeah.
And I I guess I think in that moment it taught me how to have a voice, because it wasn't about how good I looked or how much rank was on my chest. It was about like, no, this needs to happen and I need your support and here's my request. How can you support me?
Yeah. That is bold. That's bravery right there for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, it's like, and then you don't know what the outcome's going to be. So
Right.
you like brace yourself for impact. But
Right.
you were determined. I mean, you're getting up and you're there at 4 o'clock in the morning, which and most people are rolling over twice, okay, for the second wind of sleep. And then you got to go on second shift and take care of the babies, so that's a lot of sacrifice, Christina. I mean, like, seriously, that's a lot that you were able to sacrifice so that you could be able to have a better life for your family. So I want to say big ups, okay, because I mean, not a lot of people trying to do all that. This is Glenroy is also an Air Force veteran. We were stationed together
Oh,
at
cool.
Nellis, so Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. And he has here, just because we reach supervisor status does not mean that cleaning the latrine or sweeping the hangar is beneath us. A supervisor should be willing to do anything he or she directs their subordinates to do,
Yeah,
you know? And I agree. I mean, and it does give
100%.
you street cred. Okay, it does. So if anyone's listening who's in, the military or not, I mean, even if you're, working a regular job, if you will, doing things, okay, that will have you looked upon as an informal leader if you don't have the formal titles, it's always a plus. It's always a good thing for you to do. So I absolutely agree with you too, Glenroy. Hey Leslie, how you doing, madam? Good evening to you as well. Thank you so much for being here live on the Slate to Success Talk Show. Hope you're doing well. I have Christina here with us tonight, and we are talking through military life, family life, school life. She's had quite an experience so far, and we're here now speaking to, how she was in the military and how she was able to get her degree, and she was attached to a unit. It was military police as a human resource. Is it manager or specialist?
At that time, you're just a special, not
Yeah,
just, but you're a
yeah,
specialist, I think is the
yeah.
title.
I some of that I'm just like, okay, because things change all the time.
Yeah.
So, but so you were there in service, and so we talked about that's one of the things. It's like getting your hands
Yeah.
dirty, getting
Yep.
in with the people, and what else have you learned?
Yeah, I think the other experience from my first duty station being active duty was the battalion commander, who was a lieutenant colonel. One thing he said to me is he said, "Man," he's like, I'm starting to call you the battalion psychiatrist."
Oh,
And I was like, "Sir, what does that mean?" And he was like, "Well, everybody comes to you with their problems, and they know that, like, first of all, you're gonna ask them how their day's going. You're gonna ask them if you need to close the door. You're gonna offer them some cookies, because every Friday I had cookies in my office, and all the soldiers knew that. So from all the entire battalion, they could come there and they could, I could pull up their record if they were having pay issues or family issues or housing or any of the things, right?
right.
And then I would have cookies in my office, because it was like, review your records. We called it birth month audit. So if your birthday fell in that month on
Yeah,
Fridays, you'd come to my
yeah.
office and we would sit down. And so the battalion commander, it was his birth month. So Lieutenant
Oh,
Colonel Parsons at the time, he's actually, I believe he's a general now, but he came into my
okay.
office and he was like, "Hey, I now understand why the soldiers call you the unit psychiatrist." He said, "Because I come in here, you offer me cookies." He's like, "But you look at me in the eyes and you ask me how my day is going." And he said, in the military, Chris, he's like, people don't do that. He's like, people
Yeah,
don't, strip down the rank, call each other first name. He's like, and really just find out how they're doing. And it was in that moment I realized, I was like, "Oh, this is my thing. This is what I like to do. I like to take care of people. I like to take care of soldiers. I like them to come in and know that, hey, it's a safe space. If I don't know the answer, we'll find the answer. If I don't know the resource you need, I'm going to find it. And it's a safe space. You can trust me." And
right.
if I hadn't been willing to go to the field, I wouldn't have been able to create that first level of trust. So
Yeah,
it was like the first sergeant gave me that first, bit of advice, like, get your hands dirty, get in the field with them. And then the
yeah,
battalion commander said, "Okay, now that you've created that trust, here is where my soldiers can come to you. You can
yeah,
support them, you can take care of them, and create that safe space." And that's what led me, like, gosh, 10 years later, to get
yeah.
my psychology degree, because I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
this is human resources." Yeah, pay, benefits, recruitment, all the things. But there's more to that. Beyond all the resources part, you're taking care of the human, which is
Yeah.
beneath the uniform, beneath all of the title, the rank, the GS level. It's taking care of that human and finding out what it is that they actually need. And,
Yeah.
and that's where my passion is.
I love that because there's so many opportunities for you to reach another human being, right? And so through connection and having a relationship, building the
Yeah.
right relationship with the individual, it's like you have you don't have any idea of how that helps overall,
Right.
like the organization at whole.
Yeah.
When people are being acknowledged and recognized for who they are,
Yep.
and it's not a number, it's not, just kind of like, okay, you're here, okay, whatever kind of thing, but no, truly like asking how you doing and wanting to hear the answer.
Yep.
Okay, because you know how some folks be doing. They be, how you doing? Oh, I gotta go. They ask you a question and then it's like, well, I gotta go. I can't, I've got to go to a meeting or something like that. No, you ask the question. You should be present to find out what that person, is experiencing. What is their day looking like, right? So you ended up getting your doctorates in psychology.
Just my master's. No, I have University of Phoenix keeps asking me to go for a doctorate. I'm like, oh, I don't know if
Listen,
I can
I
do
just
three
spoke it
years.
into existence.
I'm
Like,
like,
okay, now, doctor, all right,
oh.
let's go there. All right. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that is important that, as you mature and you start to understand the lane for where you want to be in and to do more research and more studies in that area, that makes you more credible and it gives you people a sense that you're in it not just to just get the degree, but you're in it to apply it and to, have people understand what this is and how they can leverage that in their leadership. So I commend you for that. And you had the two littles, right? And then, and life happens. I think that too many times that we go on with life and things kind of like a path detours, right? And so you're like, oh my goodness, what do I do now? And I know you mentioned you have ex-husband, and so, but now you're remarried. And so, like what what is that, what could you share for someone who may be navigating in this space?
Cool. Yeah, that is a large question.
Yeah.
That's such a so and sorry, I it actually it's like, made me pause for a minute and to think about what it is to share. And I look back and reflecting on relationships that are had by service members.
Yeah.
And one part of what really like provoked me or like was my gung ho moment to get my psychology degree was because when managers or NCOs, commanders, first sergeants bring me a soldier or an employee that has an issue, like a conduct issue or a performance issue or anything like that, what I started to ask the manager was, well, what is it that is something that you can control in this moment as you're reviewing their performance or their conduct. And what I mean by that is if somebody is not performing, if they are not on time to formation, if they are not doing their job, what is it that's stopping them? And what the deeper I dove into this on my own, like as my own like research, because I was like so like intrigued by it, was a lot of those come from like how we show up at work, how we show up in our personal life with our spouse, our children, all the things. Oftentimes it relates back to how I was as a child, what happened to me as a child. And
Mm.
it's much deeper than how we show up as an adult. And
Mm.
so what happens to us as a child,
Yeah.
it creates this armor. If you think
Yeah.
about it as armor. So we protect ourselves. Maybe
Yep.
something happened to us and the parent or the guardian wasn't there to save us or take care of us. So we figured out a way to save ourselves. And now we're still using that same tool as an adult.
Yep.
However, we're an adult now and we don't need to use that same tool. It's different now. We don't We don't have to protect that little girl that was, 6 or 8 or 10 years old, right? That was hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can now lay down that armor and be like, it's okay. I used that when you were little, and now I'm an adult now, and I get to communicate. I get to be seen on a different level, and
Mm-hmm.
I get to create a different outcome from this experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like very like, I guess, pivotal for me was
Yeah.
like to understand that. And so I bring that up, and because I think that so many marriages in the military,
Mm-hmm.
yes, deployments are hard. Yes, separations, discharges, retirements, children, all the things may add in complex opportunities for that marriage in the military. And that's why, that could be why the divorce rate is the highest in the military life. It's the highest in all the world. But I think it's much deeper than the two adults that are in that marriage. It's about what they are carried with them from perhaps their childhood that they
Mm-hmm.
haven't had a chance to address.
Yeah.
And so when I look back and, I when I separated from my spouse, for those situations that we were experiencing, he chose one life, which was not to be a dad. And for me, it was important for me to have my career and be a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was okay. And when we were separating, I looked at him and I said, "Hey, I love you because you gave me these beautiful children,
Yeah.
and it is okay that you do not want to be a dad. It's okay. You can let go of, you can choose your life, and I'm going to choose this life, which is at the time was going to be a non-commissioned officer, and was going to be a mother, and was going to continue on in my career." And it's
Yes.
like having that freedom to let
Mm.
go of those restrictions and the armor and all
Yeah.
the things. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that helps.
It helps a lot because I agree. Like a lot of the things that we use in our childhood, we still try to make them work as an adult,
Yep.
and at some point you need to, think about emotional maturity,
Yep.
right? And I
Absolutely.
think that sometimes, we don't want to, get into that space because it's a little bit challenging
Yeah.
for us to do. And it's comfortable to use a tool that we were using when we were younger, right? And now
Yep.
we have to find a different tool and to control our emotions around it as well. So, you decided, hey, you know what? This is no harm, no foul, if you will. I choose to live my life here and take care of the children, Um, and I think that's important to what you explained too about, military marriages. Um, because I was a first sergeant for 4 years,
Wow.
and that was the biggest, uh, I wouldn't say issue. I would say it was one of those things that I knew I needed to uh, think about how I was going to make a decision around separations, divorces, all those things relationship wise. And it was always interesting to me, like, why do they get married? And usually it's like, oh, we got married at a tech school or basic training or, that kind of thing. And maybe didn't get married for the right reasons, just jumped into something. Some people would just wanted to feel a sense of love, a sense of belonging. There's some wanted to be financially, set up because you knew if both of you are going to get paychecks, then there's some security in that. There's so many different reasons why,
Yeah.
but there's never really the follow on conversation about, like, okay, now that you're co parenting, right? Now, what does that look like? What is it a thing for our relationship, right? And more follow on questions need to be asked, and more therapy, if you will, needs to be done. Because, yes, people are using tools when they were younger, for sure. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, and it makes a whole lot of sense. Um,
Yeah, I like that you
we
brought
also
up
have a comment.
emotional.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Yeah. No, I
Go
was gonna say
ahead.
I like that you brought up emotional management. An area that I've been researching more recently, as it applies to spouses, is emotional regulation. And if you
Mm-hmm.
really think about it,
Yeah.
the military life takes such a toll on military spouses, and they've gotten a little bit more
Oh
of
yeah.
my focus the past couple of years, and how to regulate the emotions of they're leaving their home, they're leaving their home, and then like how do we and then we have the kids and our own careers and all the different things. So how do I get to choose how I'm going to emotionally respond? It doesn't mean that I can't
Mm.
be sad. Doesn't mean that I can't be angry. Doesn't mean that I
Yeah.
can't feel it. But I get
Yeah.
to decide how long I sit in that feeling and then
Mm.
move into the next thing and create the
Yeah.
outcome that I truly want. So,
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's a whole nother show. You know that, right?
yeah.
Because it's true. You know, I remember, and you just brought up this whole that whole up and down like an emotional roller coaster
Yeah.
effect. And even me and my husband were both active duty,
Mm.
and he went on deployment, and then he came back for 3 months and went back on a deployment.
Oh
And
goodness.
our son was young, and I was a first sergeant at the time, and I had the
Wow.
phone, and I was, trying to do whatever I needed to do to stay on top of my career, and I was so drained. So when he came home, all I was like, take the baby. And he didn't take the baby because he was drained. You know what I mean? And it was just like, I wonder who else is experiencing this. And
Yes.
and then further along as I, started to learn more about the spouse life and what they were experiencing, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is just needs to be talked about so
Yeah.
much more." You
Yes.
know?
Yes.
So I'm glad that you
100%.
brought that up here.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I have one comment here from Glenroy, another one actually. He said, "One thing I did in the military and still do today as a supervisor and as part of leadership where I work is to make sure that I speak into staff. We never know what someone is going through. Being that person that provides a moment of positive energy to someone is important." Yeah,
So true.
it is true. It
So
really
true.
is. So thank you, Glenroy, for sharing that with us as well. So now in your work, okay, so tell the audience exactly what it is that you are doing. I know there's several things, but like tell us all the things.
Well, I do work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and it was so funny because I started working for them April 15th of 2019, and I got hired
Okay.
by the two most powerful, amazing women that I've ever had the opportunity to meet. One is retired; she was Air Force, and then she retired as an SES from the VA, and one is now the director over the National Cemetery Administration for the VA. And they were
Mm,
just so like, oh my gosh, like when you walk into a room and you're like, I feel like I'm in the presence of someone who is about to change the world. So working for
yeah.
them for 3 years was phenomenal.
Oh,
And
wow.
so we went through so many different things. Like we went through the office went through COVID. Our
Oh,
building was in downtown Oakland, and
mm-hmm.
so we experienced some attacks on our building. We experienced
Oh,
loss of life. Our security guards were two of our security guards were shot and killed. So we just experienced things on the home front, and it was so interesting for me because as we were going through all these different things, we had 6 employee deaths within my first year of being in the position, and it was from burnout and stress.
oh,
And I was like, wow, this is different than being downrange. It's about being home and what this organization whose mission is to take care of the veteran and their family and what they are experiencing on the home front. And that is what like made me like literally put my head in and go all in. Like this is my focus, this is my passion. And then last year, when we had the administration change, I lost 5 employees to the deferred resignation program that was put out, and it made me question, like, am I in the right place? And I literally sat
mm,
with that question for a few months.
mm-hmm.
Like, do I need to leave the government? Like, and is this still right? And what I came down to is like, okay, Chris, you know what your vision is, you know what your purpose in life is. As long as
Yeah,
you are aligned with your purpose, you are
yeah,
fine. It doesn't
yeah,
matter what's going on around you, it doesn't matter all the noise, as long as
yeah,
you are aligned with your purpose. And my
yeah.
purpose in life is to care for the military community. That's it.
Good.
That's
That's
all.
it.
That's why I was born.
Yeah,
So as long as I'm doing that within my purpose, that I'm in
yeah.
alignment. It doesn't matter what
Wow.
organization I work with. So with the VA being that their mission, written by Abraham Lincoln, was to care for the veteran and their families. As long as I'm doing that, then I'm in alignment. So now I get to supervise a team. I guess I think we're at 9 now. We've lost a few employees, but we're at 9 specialists that are all over the nation, and we provide HR support to VA employees who are caring for our veterans. And most of my team is either a military spouse or a veteran or have a close connection with the military community. And we always start our week with, hey, how are we going to be in alignment with ourselves? And I share with them, like, here's my purpose, here's my vision. What's yours? And has it changed this week? Because our visions can change. Has it changed? And are you still in alignment with that? So that's my career, day job. It pays the bills, and I love it because it's still in alignment with who I am.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I just honestly, I have just the biggest like love and passion for the military community. And you know, a different part of my heart cracked this past year. I became an Army mom, and there's a part of your heart when your spouse deploys and you're the military spouse at home.
Yeah.
And there's a part of your heart when you deploy and you're leaving your kids and spouse at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's another part. My dad served for 23 years when he left, and I was the child. But when you're the parent, oh gosh, that's a whole other part of your heart that's like,
I bet. Oh my God.
So yeah, that got cracked this year. And so now my son, my oldest son, he's 18 years old, and he's an infantryman. He just got his blue cord last Thursday. And I as I'm standing there and I'm watching all these beautiful humans, and they look like babies to me, but these beautiful humans ranging from 18 years old to about 23 years old, getting their blue cord. And I got a chance to talk to a few of them who didn't have family there. Yeah. And I told them, I said, it doesn't matter if you have family here or not. You are surrounded by family. Yeah. You chose to raise your right hand. You chose one of the hardest MOSs to become an infantryman. You should be so proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. And just as much as you're my son's brother in arms, I'm your mother. I'm your Army mom, and you're surrounded by family. So as long as I'm in alignment with serving the military community, whether it's, you know, as my role at the VA, being a supervisor within HR, coaching veterans, mentoring spouses, speaking at events, whatever I'm doing, as long as I am supporting the military community, I'm in alignment with my vision. And that's, if I were to die tomorrow, I want people to say, oh, Chris liked the military community. She loved those people. Yeah. That's it. That's all I want them to say.
Well, you know, and I'm sure they love you too, Queen, because, you know, it does take a special person to, you know, want to continue to help inspire, educate, empower others who may not be in transition, you know, or had the experience to do it very well, or, you know, their circumstance surrounding their service wasn't what they thought it would be. Yeah. You know, so a lot of times people aren't able to serve on their terms, all right, and do it their way. And to 100%. Even just have someone that could, you know, be there as a safety net to pick them up and say, you know what, it's okay. I have the resources. You know, I have a community, you know, I can help. I can help you, right? And I think, you know, me and you have some very, there's a lot of similarities between us two. My dad also served for 23 years in the Air Force. And, you know, it's something when you're in a life of service. I've always had an ID card. Yeah. I realized that, you know, I've never been without. I was born with one and I'll die with one, you know, and not, you know, too many times we look at these things and we don't really think deeply into that, but that's a life of service. It's a life of service. So, you know, I know I'm thankful that you are there to help and support. You know, so we are coming up at the top of the hour here, but I would like to, you know, talk through your whys. And I think that it would be helpful for somebody who's like thinking through like this calling, this purpose thing that we keep talking about. You know, I have like a bag of whys, okay? Because some days when one why is not working, I got to dig into the other why and be like, okay, you said you want to do this because this, right? So why do you do the work that you do? Just outside of this, you're saying that you want to serve the military community, but why?
It's deep for me. It's in my blood, and it's beyond like, I appreciate the term we bleed red, white, and blue, but it's so deep. My grandfather, he's my dad's dad. He started out serving in the army, and when the army transitioned and created the Air Force, he served in the Air Force, and then my dad served, and then I joined, and now my son and my wife, and it's just it's this huge bond that created this beautiful family that goes beyond blood. It goes beyond one duty station. It's spread. It's across the world, and we create this community of a deep understanding. We have this common ground. Everyone serves for different reasons.
Yeah.
Some people serve because they're patriotic. Some
Yeah.
people serve out of survival. Some
Yeah.
people serve because they've got nothing else going on for them. But the common ground we have is we all chose to serve,
Yeah.
and then from there we choose what is next for us, and it creates this bond. And one of our duty stations was at Fort Drum, New York, and we
Hmm.
were there for 3 years. Well, I wasn't stationed there; my wife was, so I
Yeah.
was in my spouse role there, and it was so amazing because COVID happened while we were there,
Hmm.
and we were locked down to this one street. So the base was locked down, and it was snowing, and Fort Drum was crazy with
Yeah.
the
Fort
snow.
Drum.
Oh
Hmm.
boy, ooh, yeah. And units were still deploying. We couldn't leave the house. Police were patrolling. I remember one time we tried to have an Easter egg hunt with the kids with masks on and gloves and all the things. Military police came by and shut us down.
Oh wow.
So, with all the things, right?
Hmm.
But we all were there for each other. We had
Yeah.
loss of life during that time. We had illness during that time. We had deployments. But we were all like, we are family and we will get through this together. And now we are all spread again all over the nation, all over the world, and all been restationed. But yet we still can come back and see each other, whether it's through a FaceTime call or in person. And so back to what is my why? They are my why.
Yeah.
Every single person that's part of that community, whether you're a child, a grandfather, a spouse, a service member, you are my why. You are why I get up in the morning and say, nope, this is what matters. And that was so beautifully right in front of me as I'm sitting in the bleachers on Thursday at 10 a.m. at Fort Benning, Georgia, just this last Thursday, and I'm seeing all these beautiful, beautiful humans, women and men, march
Hmm.
onto the parade field to get their blue ribbon, I'm blue cord, and I'm just like, these people are my why. Like
Yeah.
I am my why. My children are my why. My spouse is my why, and everyone that's part of that military community. So, if I get up in the morning and I have those days where I'm
Yeah.
tired or
Yeah.
I feel like I don't want to get up today,
Yeah.
I ask myself, all right, what is it? Do you need rest today? Do you
Yeah.
need to call a friend? Do you need to listen to some Sia music? Do you need to pump it up? Like what do you need? Do you need to go for a
Yeah.
run? What is it that you need? Because the military community needs you. So you
Yeah.
get what you need, take the rest that you need, so you can be at 100% again in the next moment. Doesn't have to take a whole day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just need to pause for a moment, take care of myself, and then get back to what I was born for.
I love that. I love that, Queen. Thank you so much for sharing that because
Of
I
course.
think it's important for people to hear that as they're continuing their journeys too. Um, so another one from Glenroy, and he says, "I am the admissions director at State Veteran Skilled Nursing Home. We experience the loss of life of our residents consistently. Since the nursing staff works directly with these residents that pass, they deal with compassion, fatigue, and grief. Do you have any insight on how to provide opportunities to them to grieve and have reflection immediately following the passing of residents? We literally have an hour or walk, flag folding, and it's back to work."
Hmm. My favorite resource or tool, for lack of a better word, to let our bodies feel grief is reflection. I think
Mm-hmm.
there is so much power in reflection.
Yeah.
And I share with you all that within my first year of working for the VA, we had 6 employees pass away. The very next year, COVID happened, and 2 of our security guards were shot and killed
Mm.
right there in Oakland, California. And one thing that I partner with our union was to have a reflection. So we'd have an open call where all the employees could join in. be on FaceTime if they would like, and just share their favorite moments of that employee, and let
Mhm.
them have the moment, let them grieve. Because I think, especially for service members, I think sometimes we are conditioned and trained to not
Mhm.
feel,
Oh yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
we do bleed and we do have feelings,
Yeah.
and it's okay to feel our feelings, and then we get to decide, I get to decide when I'm done feeling and I can move on to the next thing. But don't
Right.
rush that process, because how you feel is different than how I feel, and we get to both have our feelings and have space for that.
Yeah. I like that too. I think that is very helpful. Just to even say the person's name out loud and just to acknowledge, what that relationship was to you, what it meant for you to have them in your life, and what did they bring, what was the value of their life. I think that's so important to do in the moment, especially when you're working in places like that. Glenroy, that was a great question to ask, and I know that it will be helpful for others too when they come back and listen in on the show. But I know that we got to all get on out of here. We're at the top of the hour now. I got two questions for you, Chris, and then we're calling it a wrap. Okay,
Okay.
so
Okay.
because we could be here all day for sure. So, what would you like to share with the audience before we leave? Is there anything that you want to say or reiterate, if you will? Um,
Yeah.
this,
So
you,
if you
you,
have one thing to take away, what I would like y'all to think about tonight, and tomorrow's Monday, so we have another beautiful week ahead of us,
yeah,
is,
yeah,
who do you want in your front row? So when I ask that question, some people think of their promotion ceremony, their wedding, their college graduation. Some people think of their funeral. But when you think about your life, who do you want in the front row of your life? And I get to
hmm
decide. I get to decide how I show up at work. I get to decide how I show up at home, because how I show up, those outcomes, those produce the people that are in the front row of my life. And
mm,
so that's what I would like to leave you with, is just let that sit with you. And when you go into something as a simple task as getting your coffee from Starbucks, how you treat the barista, dropping
yeah,
your kids off at school, how you
yeah.
treat your employees, your supervisor, how you show up, the outcomes you produce, and then who do you want in your front row of your life, and how do you want that to look?
I love that. It ties in really nicely with my question that I ask every guest.
Okay.
And it's all about legacy. At this point in our lives, it's about
Yes.
legacy. What are we leaving behind for the next generation, and the generations after that? So, my question is of what is your life going to look like when you're 80? What do you want your family and your friends to say about you? If you had an opportunity to have a birthday party, God gives you your years, what do you want your family and friends to say about you at this birthday party?
Yeah. So honestly, if at this birthday party, and my grandma lived to be 99, so
Yeah,
who knows.
yeah. Hey, longevity probably in your cards there. So
Who
yeah,
knows, who
yeah,
knows. But we don't know, we never know how much time we're given over our lifespan, but we do know how
yeah,
much time we have in the day, and we get to
yes,
decide how we get to spend our time.
yeah,
So what I would want anybody who interacts with me, whether it's on social media or my closest family, my spouse, my children, I just want them to I want them to see that I just care. I'm
yeah.
kind and I care. Like, it doesn't mean I don't have breakdowns and all the things, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
we flew Frontier Airlines. I almost had a breakdown on the airplane, but you know what? It's not comfortable. Just so you know,
Right,
American or United is way more comfortable. But anyways,
right.
we can have breakdowns, but we can be human. We can have our emotions. But at the end of the day, my legacy is I love and care for my family and the military community, and
Yeah,
that's it. That's all that matters. That's all that
yeah.
matters.
Well, thank you so much, Christina. I mean, this has been amazing, of course, as I already called it before we even got on the show, for sharing your story, your insights, your perspectives, and just doing the work that you do for the military community. I also want to thank the audience guests that we had. So we had Chevy and Glenroy, Leslie. All of you came here live on the show, so we want to thank you for being part of the conversation. Glenroy said that he's thanks for that. He's going to provide this back to his leadership, what you shared with him, and so I think that's very useful. And then Chevy said, "Great conversation, ladies." So uh, okay, y'all, we gonna wrap it up. Okay, you will see me again on the Rise and Slay talk show on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will not have a show next Sunday because we will be out of town again, y'all. We are traveling this month because it's Leo season. It's my birthday. Okay, so we're gonna be going out this weekend, traveling across the world, if you will. And then, so we won't be here, but we will be back the following Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you so much, y'all, for being here with us tonight. Make sure you binge watch all of the other shows on the Slay to Success YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed there, please make sure that you subscribe so you can get notifications of when these shows are actually dropping. And last but not least, keep on slaying until you can't slay no more. And we'll see you all very soon. Bye bye.